Yes, I just want to take up a couple of the issues. I was told earlier that Dr. Katz was going to be the next witness, so I thought I better clean this up before we start with him. I've been told now that that may not be the case, but we've set the time aside, so let's just do this. The first issue that's before me on Dr. Katz's testimony was a motion by Mr. Mesereau that Mr. Oxman actually wrote, which seeks to limit the psychologist from being able to testify to the ultimate fact, the credibility of the children, pointing out that that was done in the grand jury hearing. And my ruling on that is that, in accord with the request, he is not to give his opinion as to their credibility. I think that covers that, doesn't it, Mr. Oxman?
Yes, sir. And I think it also reflects.
You have to speak up.
It also reflects to ultimate facts, Your Honor, as to whether or not it occurred.
Turn on your mic.
Also reflects the ultimate facts as to whether or not the incident occurred.
Yes. So he's not allowed to give his opinion as to credibility or his opinion as to whether the actual things happened.
Your Honor, we have no intention of asking either of those questions about his view of the credibility.
I don't think your mic's on. Is it? Can you hear back there?
All right. We have no intention on asking either of those questions, nor will we.
All right. The next issue is the Mr. Mesereau has submitted a limited waiver. I saw a copy of the limited waiver of confidentiality signed by Bradley Miller. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have it in front of me.
And do you wish to speak to that?
Yes.
All right.
I don't believe you can have a limited waiver of a nature like this to be able to ask a therapist 2 questions about a person who is presumably his patient. And, of course, Dr. Katz has never acknowledged that this person.
I never let him. It cost Mr. Oxman $1,000, as I recall. Laughter.
Now, let's assume.
You don't have to say anything.
Not without a lawyer at his side.
But so your issue is he now has a waiver. Mr. Mesereau, Mr. Oxman, they have a waiver as to the very issue that I was saying they couldn't address, which is whether or not he was a patient.
Well, actually, it doesn't do that. It specifically is a waiver to a conversation involving 2 questions. I don't know that Dr. Katz would be comfortable even acknowledging that he's a patient, given the limited nature of this waiver. I don't believe that. That's one objection I have to it. But the principal objection I have to it is that unless there is a more extensive waiver that would cover any related conversations, let's assume that this conversation did take place. And I think you're going to find out it didn't, but let's assume that something similar took place to it. Would I be entitled to ask Dr. Katz questions about the nature of that communication and other communications relevant to it? And let me give you an example. Let's assume Dr. Katz was treating Brad Miller, assuming he was his patient, for some malady that involved honesty. Let's assume that he was treating him for some malady that involved his workplace relationship with his employer, Mark Garrigus, in which case this could be in the context of much greater conversations between Dr. Katz and Brad Miller, and even conversations between Brad Miller and Mark Garrigus over a much greater period of time. How does Dr. Katz necessarily defend himself from these 2 statements without talking about the other conversations that may be directly related to this issue? I also know of no authority for a partial waiver, and they haven't cited any.
You can look at Brett v. Superior Court, 1978 case, 20 Cal.3D 844. I guess the problem I'm having. I think I've got past the partial waiver problem.
May I add one more thing to it? And that is relevance.
That's where I'm having the problem, is the relevance. What is the possible relevance, Mr. Mesereau?
I'll be examining Dr. Katz, Your Honor. There's definite relevance, because Dr. Katz has had a financial motivation to be a celebrity psychologist. In fact, he finally got a TV show recently. It's a reality show on one of the networks. Dr. Katz wants to be in a celebrity case. Dr. Katz found a way to be in a celebrity case, this one. And according to his former patient, who has waived the privilege, this man kept telling him, I want to meet celebrities. I want to be in a celebrity case. That would suggest a motivation to want to see this thing go forward.
Let me see your copy of the
waiver?
What I'm going to do at this point is to agree that there is a possibility of a limited waiver and I'll accept the limited waiver. I'm still not convinced of the relevancy based on what you represent. Well, excuse me. What Bradley Miller represents is that Dr. Katz said he wanted to be a celebrity therapist. I'm not sure that I have to think about the inference you want to have made from that.
It would suggest financial motivation, Your Honor. And the scope of cross-examination for financial motive is very broad. You're talking about a Beverly Hills psychologist who has desperately wanted to be involved with celebrities for a long time. And he was very clear with his patient, Brad Miller, that he wanted to meet celebrities and get involved in celebrity cases. That's what it really comes down to.
All right, I'll give a little more thought on that.
Is there an offer of proof that Bradley Miller will be testifying as a witness for the defense?
Yes, there is. He will be testifying for the defense.
In the limited waiver, as I see it, as far as the district attorney's concerned, you were giving some hypotheticals, and before you could address that type of thing, before you could go beyond the cross-examination limited to that conversation, you'd have to have my permission. You'd have to be able to make the same sort of, have a witness make a declaration, and I'm going to, if I allow it in, it will be narrowly construed as to any conversations. This is a really important privilege that's being protected here. So, I'm not saying you can't do it, but you were just giving me hypotheticals. What if this, and what if that, and that's not where we are.
I, of course, don't know, because
I'm just saying, to go beyond. There's cross-examination here that you can clearly make about this, you know, what was really said, and get the whole conversation out on that issue. Obviously you're not limited to the two statements that are represented here. But to go into why he's in treatment or any of that, you can't touch that.
I understand that, but here's my concern. If it's true that Bradley Miller is Dr. Katz's patient, and assuming for this argument that he is, if it's true that Mark Garrigus is Bradley Miller's employer, and Dr. Katz is a psychologist treating Bradley Miller, I would assume that among their discussions, perhaps multiple discussions, is his workplace relationship with his employer.
Well, you would assume that, but we don't know that. That's why I'm saying, whatever else you want to go into, you're going to have to provide me with some sort of statement signed, as they did with Bradley Miller. Although, this is not a statement under penalty of perjury, but it gives me the information that I need to know whether I'm going to let you go into it. That's all I'm telling you. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I think what you'll have to do is to file the waiver the original waiver when you're ready. I'll give it back. I've got a copy of it. I just didn't have an original.
I only have an emailed waiver. That's all I have at the present.
It's been faxed.
A faxed waiver.
We'll get the original.
We will get the original, Your Honor.
All right, I think we're ready, then, to go forward with the testimony. Do you want to bring in the jury, please? All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Masada, when Jay Jackson and Janet Arvizo called you and...
Objection. Vague.
He's only testified to one call, Your Honor. Your Honor.
And two people placing it?
I'll rephrase it. Mr. Masada, approximately when did Jay Jackson and Janet Arvizo call you and discuss the issue with a judo club or karate club, if you know?
I don't recall.
Okay, obviously it was your impression that Janet Arvizo was involved with Mr. Jay Jackson at that point, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you know that Jay Jackson was making $8,000 a month?
No, I didn't.
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence, hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you know whether or not Janet was collecting welfare at that point and giving it to Jay?
Objection. Assuming facts not in evidence and hearsay.
Sustained.
Did Janet ever discuss the J.C. Penney lawsuit with you?
Objection. Irrelevant and hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
And when did you have a conversation with Janet about the J.C. Penney lawsuit?
After I heard it on the news.
And when did you hear about it on the news?
I don't recall.
Was it recently?
No, it was a couple, Few months ago. I don't know how many months ago it was. It was in the news.
So you're in touch with Janet these days, right?
Yes, sometimes I am.
When did you last talk to her?
Before Christmas.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you had a lot of meetings with either the prosecution or somebody connected with the prosecution, correct?
The detective, they came to my office many times, yeah.
Okay. When was the last time you had an in-person discussion with anybody associated with the prosecution?
This morning.
Okay. And where was that?
It was in the room where the witnesses sit.
Okay. And did you have a discussion with anybody in that room this morning?
The discussion, Mr. Ron Zonin, he said, it's going to be easy. Just relax. I'm going to go to a room and we're going to call you in a few minutes. I have a witness on this side. I'm going to talk to them, and they're going to bring you in.
Now, when you had a discussion with Janet Arvizo about the J.C. Penney case.
Yes.
Without telling me what she said, did you learn approximately when that case was resolved?
Objection. Irrelevant. Hearsay. Lack of foundation.
Sustained.
Do you know whether or not the J.C. Penney case was ever resolved?
Objection. Irrelevant and hearsay. Lack of foundation.
Sustained.
Have you had discussions with Janet Arvizo about this case?
About this case, not really.
And what do you mean by, not really?
I mean, the only thing she, at one time.
I'm not asking you what she said. I'm just asking you if you've discussed this case with Janet.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe I did one time.
Maybe one time?
Yes, I did.
And when was that maybe one time?
Maybe one time about God. I don't know when it's about. The case was on the sheriffs and the district attorney and everybody else. Was maybe about 6, 7 months, 8 months ago.
Okay. When did you last see Janet?
I guess, approximately, maybe about 7, 8, 6 months, 7 months ago.
Months ago?
I don't know exact. I'm very bad with time, so don't corner me on that.
And where did you see her?
I saw her in her apartment.
And where was that?
It was in West LA somewhere.
Okay.
It was Jay's apartment, or their apartment, or whatever.
So you visited Janet and Jay in their apartment in West Los Angeles, correct?
Yes, I did.
I'm not asking you the address. I don't think that's relevant. But West Los Angeles is very different from East Los Angeles, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Much more affluent, correct?
Some of the places.
But generally, as an area of Los Angeles, it's one of the most affluent areas of Los Angeles, isn't it?
Yes. They have poor places and rich places, yes.
It is considered one of the most affluent parts of LA, correct?
Objection. Irrelevant and lack of foundation. He's not a
Asked and answered.
Okay, alright. And who arranged for you to meet with Janet Arvizo and Jay Jackson at an apartment in West Los Angeles?
Nobody arranged it.
Somebody must have, right?
No, I mean, I call up.
You just ended up there?
Do you want me to tell you how I did? I called. I wanted to find out how Gavin, how he's doing. So I want to see his physical, how his face, everything is okay. I said, I'll come and drop by. I have time to drop by and come see you.
Without saying what anybody told you, did you discuss this case in Jay Jackson's apartment with Jay and Janet?
No.
This topic never came up?
No.
How did you know where to call to arrange the meeting?
I have Janet's cell number, and I have Jay's number.
Okay. Now, in 1993, you told the sheriffs that you had introduced the Arvizos to Adam Sandler, correct?
All object is vague. 1993?
1993?
Pardon me. I'm sorry. Counsel is correct. In 2003.
Yes.
You told the sheriffs you had introduced the Arvizos to Adam Sandler, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when did you do that?
Now, let's define a couple of things, because I don't want to get in a corner again. Arvizo. What do you mean by Arvizo? Describe what you mean by Arvizo. I mean, who you mean. Give me the name of the people you want to know so I can give you direct answer, if you don't mind, please.
Any Arvizo that you introduced to celebrity Adam Sandler.
Gavin.
Okay. And when did you introduce Gavin to Adam Sandler?
The date? I don't know the date.
Approximately when?
God, I know I drove him to Sony Studio. I talked to Adam, and he said, bring him over. I took him to Sony Studios. Adam took him to lunch, took me and Gavin to lunch, and then after that we went to his office. Do you want to know more?
Sure.
Okay, laughter. I'll go ahead. Then we went to his office. Then we played, sit down on the couch, played basketball with Gavin. And Rob Schneider was there. And then at that point Adam Sandler gave Gavin a little TV, a Sony TV with a little battery and everything on it. And Gavin said, oh, God, he gave me a TV. I said, go ahead and say thank you to him, and that was it.
To your knowledge, did Gavin ever see Adam Sandler again?
Not as far as I know.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you organized a blood drive for Gavin, right?
Yes, sir.
Did that take place at the Laugh Factory?
We put a name on marquee. We put a sign in the door. Anybody comes in, if they have O negative, that they go give blood, they tell me they did it, we let them come in free. They can have free drinks, whatever, all of that stuff.
Now, at some time did you ever learn that Michael Jackson had arranged a blood drive for Gavin as well?
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence, and lack of foundation, and hearsay.
Overruled.
That's the first time I heard.
You didn't know about that?
No, sir, I'm sorry.
Do you know someone named Philip Palmer from KABC in Los Angeles?
Yes, I do.
And did you ever introduce Philip Palmer to any of the Arvizo family?
Yes.
Approximately when was that?
The time Gavin was in bad need of blood, and he came to hospital. I was interviewed by Philip Palmer, and we talk about he needed blood. And Philip Palmer showed that thing on ABC.
Okay. And did you introduce any of the Arvizos to any other newscaster that you can recall?
Newscaster. God, there were a few of them. Maybe Patrick Press, sick. Patrick Press, sick. From Fox TV, they did a documentary. PBS, they did a documentary on Laugh Factory Comedy Camp. Their newscasters are producer of all of that, they were there. They were introduced. Who else? A lady from Fox was introduced to Janet. And Fritz Coleman. I forgot his name. Fritz Coleman. Who else? Really, I'm going blank. There might be more people.
You said that Mr. Press, sick, had something to do with a documentary for PBS, correct?
What?
Mr. Press, sick, had something to do with a documentary for PBS, right?
No, he did not.
You did mention a documentary, didn't you?
Yes, he did a documentary on the comedy camp for Fox TV.
Okay.
And his name was Patrick Press, sick, and he did it on the family. He did it on the, if you want to get the tape, he did the whole thing on the family, where they were living, and what they were doing, what trouble they had, all of that. He did a whole, you could get the tape. It's a wonderful tape. I saw.
This is the Arvizo family, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And approximately what year did this documentary on the Arvizo family appear on television?
You're asking a question that I don't know.
Just approximately.
Huh?
Just approximately. I'm not asking for a specific date.
Maybe in 99, 2000. I'm not sure.
To your knowledge, was Gavin ill when that documentary was produced?
I know PBS, the documentary they did, Gavin was sick, because PBS, Carol Thompson went with me to the hospital and taped Gavin in the hospital. I know that. That's, what, in 2000, I think, or 2001. Or 2000. Yeah, 2000. And Patrick Press, sick. Now, I want to make sure I'm, get my date, Patrick Press, sick. Start doing the documentary in the club.
Okay.
For Fox TV. And I believe he did some add up to it later on for Fox from when Gavin was sick. I'm not sure. You get the tape, you can see better than me. I'll tell you about it. Get the tape and all of you can review it.
Okay.
Instead of asking me about it.
I want to ask you what you know about it. Okay?
Yeah.
So the PBS documentary on the Arvizos is something separate from the Fox documentary you just discussed, correct?
PBS, they did a documentary, 2 hours documentary.
Right.
On the Laugh Factory Comedy Camp that is going to be, let me give a plug to everybody watching. It's going to be on the Comedy Central or E! TV, so watch it. It's 2 hours documentary on Laugh Factory Comedy Camp.
Right.
And wasn't only to Arvizo, but Arvizo, and Gavin was part of that as he was sick. And he was part of following me, what I do all day, where I go, what I do, all of that stuff, with the comedy camp.
Okay.
And Fox TV was particularly on Arvizo.
Yes. Okay. Now, part of the PBS documentary included you visiting the hospital to see Gavin, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it also included other material on the Arvizo family, correct?
No, I think you're getting everything confused. You're getting like me.
I'm just, laughter. Alright. Did the PBS documentary? Maybe you should ask me questions, I think.
At this point I should. Laughter.
Did the PBS documentary?
Yes.
Include anything about the Arvizo family, other than your visits to the hospital to see Gavin?
No.
To your knowledge?
No.
Okay. Then you had the Fox documentary, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was filmed after the PBS documentary, right?
No, you're getting confused. Before.
Before it?
Yeah, because the 99.
Yes.
Gavin and Star and Devellin, they were all in the comedy camp.
Right.
And Patrick Press, sick, came in to do the documentary. Let us show on the news what I do about the comedy camp.
Okay.
And that's, he started. But I think PBS documentary started 2000. Year 2000, we were doing the comedy camp, so don't get them confused. So PBS is different from what you call Patrick Press, sick. It happened the year the Arvizo, they were in the comedy camp.
Okay. And that's before Gavin got ill?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you arrange for Press, sick, to do that documentary?
I really don't know how we came about. My office did. I have no idea how it came about. I really don't know.
How did the Arvizos end up in that documentary, if you know?
I have no idea.
Did you recommend that they be in that documentary?
I think I have a vague idea. No, I didn't.
Do you know how many of the Arvizo family members were in that documentary?
It was all 3 of them, they were.
All 3 of the children?
The children, yes.
And were they performing in that documentary?
Yes, they were a little bit performing, as I recall. Now, don't corner me. As I recall.
You're in the documentary, too?
Yes, sir. I'm the star.
That's what I figured. Okay. The second documentary.
Okay.
Excuse me. There are a lot of documentaries going on here, because there are a few more also, right?
Hopefully. God willing. Why not?
One of the documentaries involving the Arvizo family came about because Janet asked you to do it, correct?
Janet asked me to do it?
Yes.
I'll object as vague as to which documentary he's referring to.
Overruled. You may answer.
I really don't recall if Janet asked me anything. If she did, I don't recall it.
You don't know one way or the other.
Really, I don't. At this point, I don't recall it.
Okay. Now, did Philip Palmer?
Yes.
On KABC announce a blood drive only, or a fundraiser, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge. Oh, God, you get me cornered again here. What? I really don't. I think it was mostly blood drive. I'm not sure. Again, don't quote me on it.
And, I would never quote you. Don't worry about it.
Good.
It was your idea.
Yes.
To introduce the Arvizos to Michael Jackson, correct?
No, it wasn't my idea.
Was it Gavin's idea?
It was Gavin's idea.
Okay. And because Gavin asked you, you called Neverland, correct?
Gavin was. I was encouraging him to eat.
Yes.
And he asked me, he was watching TV, he said, Michael is my idol. How can I meet him? Can you arrange it? And at that point I want to say, I'll make a wish come true. Yeah, I could do anything. You want me to help, I'll help. And I want to encourage him, eat. I say, yeah, I'll go do it.
And you told the Santa Barbara sheriffs in your telephone. Excuse me. You told the district attorney investigator in December of 2003 that you did it because Michael does good stuff for kids, right?
I believe so. Did I say that? If I said it, I believe him.
I can show you the transcript.
No, I'm sure I did.
Okay. And was it your understanding that you were the first person to make any contact between the Arvizos and Michael Jackson?
No way. I do not know was the first person. God knows who did. Maybe Michael just watched the TV and felt good in his heart. He call him. I have no idea.
To this day, you have never met Michael Jackson?
No. This is the first time I've seen him. To the defendant, how are you?
Indicating.
Okay. Now, you learned at some point that the Arvizos made contact with comedian Chris Tucker, right?
Yes, sir.
And how did you learn about that?
I didn't learn about it. I introduced him to Gavin.
When was that?
In my club.
Approximately when? Do you know?
I have no idea of the date again.
Did you learn at some point that Janet and Devellin were calling and asking for Chris Tucker's car?
I'm going to object as assuming facts not in evidence, as well as relevance, as well as lack of foundation and hearsay.
Sustained.
Do you know anything about any efforts by any Arvizos to obtain a car from Chris?
Objection. Irrelevant and hearsay. Lack of foundation.
Sustained.
Okay. You told the DA investigator in 93 that Chris Tucker took, in
93?
I keep saying that. 2003. You kept.
You.
Let me rephrase that. You told the district attorney investigator in 2003 that Chris Tucker took the Arvizos shopping, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you know when that happened?
I have no idea the date. And I remember what Chris Tucker told me.
How did you learn about that?
Chris Tucker has told me. He said, Jamie, I love those kids.
I'm going to object as hearsay.
Sustained.
So I don't answer it, Your Honor?
No.
Okay, good.
Did you ever go on one of those shopping trips with Chris Tucker and the Arvizos?
No, I didn't have time.
Okay.
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence that there were shopping trips with Chris Tucker and the Arvizos.
Sustained.
Motion to strike the answer.
Stricken.
Do you recall Rob Schneider ever giving gifts to the Arvizos?
That's a yes or no question, I believe.
Counsel, if you have an objection, make it.
Lack of foundation, Your Honor.
Foundation. Sustained.
Did you introduce the Arvizos to comedian Rob Schneider?
Arvizo, you got to identify. Meaning Gavin?
Any Arvizo.
I'll object as vague.
Yeah.
Did you introduce Gavin Arvizo to comedian Rob Schneider?
Yes, I did.
To your knowledge, did any other member of the Arvizo family meet Rob Schneider at any time?
Yeah, I remember Louise and David, they wanted to meet all the celebrity. They want to meet Rob Schneider and, what was the name? Adam Sandler. They came, oh, can we introduce him? And I said, guys, this is for the kids. That's not for you guys. You're grown up, come on.
Were you ever present when comedian Rob Schneider was with Gavin Arvizo?
Yes, I was.
And where was that?
It was at lunchtime. We had a lunch, 3 of us, 4 of us together. And then we went to his room at Sony and we sat on the couch and played basketball towards the wall. We throw balls to the wall.
On that occasion, did you see Rob Schneider give gifts to Gavin of any kind?
I saw Adam give him. No, I don't remember if he gave him, no.
Well, that's the day that Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider were with Gavin, right?
Yes.
You were there. And somebody gave him a television, right?
I told him Adam Sandler.
Did you see Rob give him anything?
Rob gave him a hug.
Anything else?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Now, at some point, you paid for the Arvizo rent on their home, correct?
Yes. Not Arvizo home, David's home, yeah.
Well, David was married to Janet at the time, correct?
Yes, sir.
So why do you want to single out David and not Janet if you're paying both of their rent?
I don't single out, because Janet wasn't asking me. David asked me for rent.
David asked you. Said they didn't have rent money?
Yes, sir.
And you paid rent for Janet, David and the children, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How many times did you do that?
A couple of times I think I gave him cash. I don't recall. I'm not sure. A couple of times.
In total, how much cash do you think you gave the Arvizos?
Objection. The Arvizos.
Well, Your Honor.
Vague.
I'll withdraw. I'll lay a better foundation. During the time that Janet and David were married and living together.
Yeah.
And during the approximate time that you paid their rent, for Janet, David and the children, how much money in total do you think you gave the Arvizo family?
Objection. Arvizo family. It's who he gave the money to.
Overruled. He asked for a total of all of them.
I very openly, I don't do charity for tax write-offs, so I have a count of how much to give. I give money from my heart. I never write them as a tax write-off. So I don't know how much I gave him. I gave him money whenever they ask me. It's not a tax write-off. I do it from my heart. Some people, they know how much they give to this, how much they give to that. I have no idea.
Can you estimate in total how much you gave the Arvizo family?
I have no idea. You know, I mean the time they come in the office, I need money for my gas, I need money for food, I need this, and you give them 50, 20, 30, 40, 50. Whatever you have in your pocket, you give to them. You don't sit down. How much was that? How much was that? I don't count that. I go out there, I give to another person the same thing.
Obviously, you were generous with them quite often.
Yes, I was.
Objection as to them as vague.
Sustained.
Obviously, you were very generous to the Arvizo family.
Objection to the Arvizo family as vague.
Your Honor, with all due respect, they're married and are living together.
That assumes facts not in evidence.
There has been an issue drawn in this case about who asked for money and who gets money. And that's why we have the objection. And I will sustain the objection. Have you asked specifically who?
When you paid for the Arvizo rent, who did you give the money to?
Always to David.
When you paid for the karate and judo school, who were you helping out?
Gavin and Star.
And that was as a result of a phone call from Jay Jackson and Janet Arvizo, correct?
It was, yes, a conversation with Jay Jackson, yes.
And Janet Arvizo, as you've already testified, was in the phone call, right?
Yes.
David Arvizo was not in that phone call, correct?
No, he was not.
Okay, now, you did testify that David often asked you for money, right?
Yes, sir.
And how many times, if you know, do you think he asked you for money?
I have no idea.
Was it a lot?
He would come in, the people didn't know. You got to picture something here. The kid, the family out of work. The kid is sick, and they react. They don't have no money, they have no mean of living, and you try to help. You don't ask how many. If you give them, you've been in that situation, the same as me, you help out, whatever it is. You don't count them. How many time, how many year, how many this. You give help to people and that's what it's about.
Alright, and if they obtained a large sum of money from any civil settlement, you didn't know about it, right?
No, I did not.
Okay, the only message you were getting was these people are poor, right?
That's what I got. Yes, sir.
Okay, now, at any time did you learn that David Arvizo worked for the Teamsters?
Objection. Assumes facts not in evidence, lack of foundation.
Sustained.
Did you ever learn what David Arvizo's occupation was?
He said he used to work in a supermarket.
Anything else he told you about?
No, he said supermarket.
Okay, he never told you he worked as a Teamster, did he?
No, what's a Teamster?
You don't know, right?
I have no idea.
Okay. When do you think you introduced the Arvizos to George Lopez?
I have no date. I have no idea.
Okay, and is George Lopez a friend of yours?
Yes.
Still?
Yes.
Okay, and is Ann Lopez a friend of yours?
Yes.
When did you last talk to them? Excuse me, let me rephrase that. When did you last talk to George Lopez?
I haven't talked to George Lopez almost maybe 3, 4, 5 months. I was in a wedding. I saw him. Martin Lesick wedding. His agent was getting married. I was the best friend for his agent at UTA, and George Lopez was there and a bunch of other stars were there. We sat down. Hello, how are you? Hug. The same thing.
You testified that you thought someone had made millions of dollars on the Bashir documentary, but that the Arvizo family had gotten nothing, right?
Yes, I did.
And you didn't think that was right, correct?
That was right?
You didn't think that was right?
No, my whole thing was, I saw they exploiting some underprivileged, underage people, that people in the media made a fortune out of that documentary. That was my personal belief. And they show this poor kid's face on that documentary, and the kids in the school calling him, faggot. I thought that was unfair.
Right.
That was not fair there.
You thought that Bashir did an injustice?
I thought that Bashir did injustice.
Right. And you told Janet.
Yeah.
That she should go to a lawyer because they're making millions and your family is getting nothing.
No.
Well, that's certainly what you suggested earlier, wasn't it?
No. You got to listen to me or read it back what I said, okay?
Okay.
What I said, I want to stop the people calling him names.
Uh-huh.
I did not say anything about money or anything. Don't bring that up. We were talking about what was injustice was done. He used that and showed his picture on the TV, every newspaper, every print media, from electronic to, print media, they all have his picture. I said that was very unfair. I want to stop that, because I didn't want the kid go to gas station, the guy in gas station say, here is that faggot. He slept with Michael. I did not want that happen to any of my kid, and I think that's injustice.
Do you remember telling a district attorney investigator that Martin Bashir made millions and these underprivileged kids didn't get a cent?
Yeah, I did. I still say it.
And one of the reasons you referred Janet to attorney Bill Dickerman was you learned she had signed some document relating to the Bashir documentary, correct?
It was. Maybe was later on. Don't mix it up. Maybe it was later on that she said she signed. The first time we went to Bill Dickerman, it was all about that kid show the picture on the documentary was injustice. I wanted to stop newspaper, everywhere it is, can we stop that?
Now, did you learn at some point that Michael Jackson and Janet Arvizo had sued the British company that did the documentary in England?
I did not know that.
And did you ever learn that Michael Jackson had sued for a number of reasons, including they put his children on the documentary?
I'm going to object as lack of foundation, and hearsay, and relevance.
Sustained.
Did Janet ever inform you that she was involved in a lawsuit with Michael Jackson against a British production company?
Objection. Hearsay, lack of foundation, relevance.
Sustained.
Do you remember telling a district attorney investigator they made money and they didn't give anything to the Arvizos?
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
Again, you got to question again.
Sure. Do you remember telling a district attorney investigator in 2003 that with respect to Bashir's company, they made money, and didn't give the Arvizos anything?
How could I make that comment? I'm still making that comment, too. How could I?
And you felt that Bashir and his company had taken advantage of an underprivileged kid, right?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I do.
Okay. How many meetings with Janet and attorney Bill Dickerman did you attend?
God. I think maybe about 4 or, maybe 4, 5, or 3. 4. I think I remember 4 of them.
And when did you first meet attorney Bill Dickerman?
When did I ever met him?
Yes.
He became my attorney a long time ago. He represent me, and I thought he did a very good job.
And how many years had he represented you before you introduced the Arvizos to him?
I would say over 5, 6, 7, 8.
Had he represented you in various lawsuits?
Yes, sir.
How many lawsuits?
Objection. Irrelevant.
Sustained.
How many times have you testified under oath before today?
Testify under, maybe 3 times. 3 times, 4 times.
Do you remember a case where you sued someone named Roy Cavan?
Yes, I did.
And approximately when was that?
God, that was my neighbor in my club, who came in, he did something to my club. I don't know, I can't remember the date.
You testified under oath in a deposition in that case, correct?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember you were asked questions about when you became an American citizen?
I'm going to object as irrelevant.
Sustained.
Do you remember you're not recalling when you went to high school?
Objection. Irrelevant.
Sustained.
Do you remember you're not knowing where you worked?
Objection. Irrelevant.
Sustained.
Do you remember testifying under oath you didn't know when you became a comedian?
I'm going to object to the content of this deposition in total. Irrelevant.
Sustained. No further questions unless you make an offer of proof to the court.
Your Honor, I can prove that this witness.
Outside the presence of the jury.
Okay. Do you recall at any time talking to attorney Larry Feldman?
I don't think I spoke to him personally. I don't think I met him, spoke to him. I went to his office.
You went to his office?
Yes, I did.
When did you go to attorney Larry Feldman's office?
One time Bill Dickerman called me. He said he and Larry Feldman, they was going to meet with Arvizo and if I would be kind enough to, bring them there. I say, yeah, I will be more than happy to do it.
Did you participate in any meeting between any of the Arvizos and attorney Larry Feldman?
No, I did not.
By the way, you've testified about your concern that Gavin was being made fun of by schoolmates after the Bashir documentary, right?
Yeah.
And do you remember telling a district attorney investigator that, as a result of that, Janet wanted her kids to go to a private school, and you told her you would help send them?
They were thinking about to send him, the kid, to a school that they would not make fun of him. And they were deciding to do it. And I said, what's holding you guys back? If you guys need any money for private school, I volunteer, give you whatever you need.
Okay, but Janet at that point wanted her kids in a private school, correct?
Didn't want a private school. Want him to be somewhere. The people, they don't make fun of her son, calling him faggot.
But you told the DA investigator that Janet wanted her kids in a private school, told you about it, and you said you would help send them, correct?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Did you ever help send the Arvizo children to a private school?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
I have no idea. After Martin Bashir, and the kids, they call him faggot.
Was that when she was in a relationship with Major J. Jackson, to your knowledge?
Yes.
Did you know what his income was at that point?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled.
No idea.
Did you ever ask Major J. Jackson, how much do you make?
No, it is not my business.
Okay.
How much he makes.
How long did you help with the private school?
I just wrote him one check. It was very little money. Very little money. I just give them one check.
And again, that was after the Bashir documentary, right?
Yeah, yes.
And would it be safe to say that was in the year 2003?
If that's what's the year it happened, yes.
Okay. Now, you talked to an investigator for the Santa Barbara District Attorney's Office about Maury Povich. Do you remember that?
I don't recall it, but if you said so.
Do you recall doing that?
I said I don't recall it, but if you said so.
No, I'm not telling you what to say.
I don't recall.
You don't recall ever discussing Maury Povich?
I might have. I have 100 things going every day. Do you remember 3 years ago what you did, what you said, who you talked to? No.
Do you want to cross-examine me? Laughter.
No, I'm just saying reality. Let's look at reality of things. We are human beings. You don't remember what you said every day. We are human beings.
I understand. But if you don't remember.
No, I'm saying probably I did, but I don't remember.
Okay. How long were you in Larry Feldman's office?
Maybe about, not even his office. I was never in his office. Describe his office. What do you mean by office?
What do you think office means?
Office, meaning if I go to judge office, he have his office up there. This is courtroom. This is waiting room. I was in waiting room. I never went to judge office. That's why I call it judge office. That's a waiting room. I was in the waiting room. I never went to his office. That's what I meant by office.
Okay, so you were in Larry Feldman's waiting room while the Arvizos were in Larry Feldman's office, right?
No, they were sitting waiting with me.
Okay.
We waited there.
At some point, did attorney Larry Feldman come out and see all of you?
No, somebody, I don't know who, what, somebody came out, said, "We going to take you to conference room." They take me to conference room. And after we went to conference room, I told Janet that I felt uncomfortable, I want to leave, and then at that point they went to talk. And somebody came, I don't know if it was Larry. Whoever it was, they said, "Jamie, you could leave."
Did you leave?
Yes, sir, yes.
Did you ever see attorney Larry Feldman again?
On TV.
Did you ever personally see him again?
No, I never saw him personally.
Okay, now, let me just go back to your meetings with attorney Bill Dickerman and the Arvizos, okay?
Yes, sir.
The first meeting at Bill Dickerman's office, correct?
Yes, sir. No, not in his office. Again, in a conference room. Let me make a correction.
The first meeting is in the offices of attorney Bill Dickerman in a conference room, correct?
Yes, sir.
And present are attorney Bill Dickerman and the Arvizos, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did anyone call the police at that meeting?
Not as far as I knew.
Okay. The second meeting you had with the Arvizos and attorney Bill Dickerman was at the Laugh Factory, correct?
Yes, sir.
And nobody called the police at that meeting, correct?
No, sir. It was suggested.
Nobody called the police at that meeting, correct?
And I said it was suggested, not called.
The third meeting between attorney Bill Dickerman and the Arvizos was at the Laugh Factory, right?
Yes, sir.
Nobody called the police at that meeting, correct?
No, sir.
Did you say there was another meeting with attorney Bill Dickerman and the Arvizos that you were somehow involved in?
Yes, sir.
And where was that?
That was. I was going to watch Gavin and Star. They were playing on the baseball team.
Your Honor, I'd request the witness just respond to the question.
Did I say wrong?
The question was, and where was that? You had another meeting.
Where was the, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'll rephrase.
All right.
Where did the fourth meeting involving you, the Arvizos and attorney Bill Dickerman take place?
It was in the restaurant in Farmers Market in Los Angeles, California. And then from there, we went to baseball team behind Farmers Market.
So the meeting between you, the Arvizos and attorney Bill Dickerman took place in Farmers Market in Los Angeles?
Yeah, again, can you describe what you mean, meeting? To clarify that.
Did you meet with attorney Bill Dickerman and the Arvizo family at the Farmers Market in Los Angeles?
Yes, I did.
That meeting occurred after the 3 prior meetings between the Arvizos and Bill Dickerman that you've described, true?
I think so. I'm not sure.
And nobody called the police at that meeting, correct?
No, sir. No, sir.
At some point you learned that attorney Bill Dickerman had contacted attorney Larry Feldman, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was because Dickerman told you.
I'll object as speculative or hearsay.
State of mind, Your Honor.
Well, again, he's speculating as to another person's belief.
He told you he was going to use that state of mind on you quite a bit, remember? I didn't get the whole question. So I can't tell. You interrupted him, actually.
Okay.
Do you want to rephrase?
Sure, Your Honor. At some point in time, you learned that attorney Bill Dickerman, who had represented you for many years, had referred the Arvizos to attorney Larry Feldman, right?
Objection. Hearsay. Lack of foundation. Also relevance as to this witness's testimony.
The objection's overruled. Did you learn that?
Did I learn Bill Dickerman was talking to Larry Feldman?
And introduced the Arvizos.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next question.
Yes. Now, Mr. Masada, in one of your sheriff's interviews, you said you were involved in several fundraising efforts on behalf of the Arvizo family, right?
I said, I don't recall how many times. I said about 2, 3 of them, yeah.
Was it 2 or 3?
I think it was 2. After I was thinking about it, it was 2.
And did both of those take place at the Laugh Factory?
Yes, sir.
Now, you told the Santa Barbara sheriffs that you made arrangements with the Arvizo family to receive door charge monies on several occasions, right?
On several occasions. Maybe I said twice.
You told them, several occasions, didn't you?
Maybe I made a mistake.
Okay. And you arranged for the Arvizos to be at the entrance to the Laugh Factory and allow them to get door charge monies, correct?
Yes, sir.
You told the Santa Barbara sheriffs that it was 4 nights in total, right?
I counted the blood drive and all of that stuff. It was 2 nights.
Okay. You said on each occasion David and the children would man the front door and personally collect the entry fees from customers, right?
Yes, sir.
You don't know how much they collected, do you?
Not really. I remember one particular one, the first one it actually was. At the time they have nurses and everybody from hospital coming in, and one of the nurses came in back door, and knocked the door, and she told me, she said, well, I want to come to the club, but I don't have money with me. I thought I didn't know it was going to cost money to come in. And I remember that I gave her some cash. I said, go ahead. For you, here's some cash. Go in front and walk in, and here's the money. I remember that. Some of the stuff like that stands out in my mind.
You told the Santa Barbara sheriffs that the Arvizo family kept all of the money collected at the door, right?
Yes, sir.
You said that you and the Laugh Factory absorbed the operating, employee and performer costs, right?
Some of the performers, most of the time they are, if I ask them, they are big comics, like Bob Saget, Howie Mandel, all of these guys. They come in, they don't get money. But sometime you pay them, see the money. Pay some of the people, they need money. You know, you give them money. But usually those costs is covered by the time. One person, you know, decide to come to the club, they are thirsty, they want to have a drink, watch the show. They have a drink, and that costs usually covers that.
But just to get back to my question, you and the Laugh Factory, which you own.
Yes, sir.
Absorb the operating, employee and performer costs for those evenings, right?
Yes.
And you told the Santa Barbara sheriffs there was no accounting for how much money was gathered on any of the evenings in question, right?
Meaning Gavin, or what are you talking about? The money, how much they got?
Yes. You told the sheriffs there was no accounting for what they got, correct?
No. Yes, absolutely.
You told the sheriffs you didn't think any of the fundraisers exceeded $3,000, right?
He asked me, he said, what do you think? 1,000? 2,000? 3,000? I said, I don't think it was ever more than 3,000. That's what I said to him.
And you also told the Santa Barbara sheriffs that you thought the family may have received monetary donations from media exposure through people you knew, correct?
On one occasion, yes.
Which occasion was that?
I remember Fritz Coleman, he did something for blood drive, and somehow had said something about some kind of financial aid or something. It was a bank account or something. But I'm not sure. I wasn't involved with it. I don't know anything about it.
When you say, bank account, what are you referring to?
Something, I have no idea. Some kind of thing with Fritz Coleman. I don't know. He put it on the screen or something. I have no idea. I heard about it. I'm not 100% sure. I'm just talking about it. I don't know exactly. Maybe I should say I don't really exactly know.
Do you remember telling anyone that you had gone to the hospital and paid some of Gavin's medical bills?
No. There was a person from press. They did that, and I find out about it. Somebody told me about it. And I called her, she said she's going to retract it. And she never retracted. She kind of misled me. But I never said that.
So you were misquoted by someone in the press to that effect?
Yeah. The press, they want to get attention to another paper or television. They say stuff like that. You are aware of, right?
You're saying you never told anyone in the press that you had personally paid for medical bills for Gavin?
I helped them out. I never paid for medical.
Okay. And never told that to anybody in the press, correct?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
You told the Santa Barbara sheriffs that on more than one occasion Janet and Jay Jackson approached you for assistance, correct?
Judge, I'm going to object as hearsay. Unless it's a prior inconsistent statement.
All sustained the objection.
Periodically, Jay Jackson and Janet would ask you for assistance, right?
No, only twice Jay asked me. And he didn't ask me for assistance. I volunteered. Don't change it around.
Well, you just said he asked you, didn't you?
We were talking about it. He said they didn't have enough money to pay for the thing. And I said, I'll pay for it. He didn't say, give me the money. This is a different thing. If you ask me for money, it's different.
What do you think he was suggesting when he told you he didn't have money to pay for these things?
Meaning maybe they didn't have money. You don't know. I don't know. How do you know if they didn't have money? Maybe they didn't have. Maybe they were broke by that point. I have no idea.
Did you issue checks to Gavin, Star and Devellin?
Yes, I did.
And how many checks did you issue to Gavin, if you know?
I think one time they performed, the time to make them become the only, a lot of people, they go around, they say, I'm a comedian. I'm a this. I'm an actor. I'm a this, that, and that. They just call themselves. They never get paid for it. But to make performance, like Gavin, Star, and Devellin, to make them a performer, you pay them as a comic. And I did pay them as a comic one time.
Now, the government prosecutor, Mr. Zonin, showed you 2 checks.
Yes.
That you had written to David Arvizo, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you told the Santa Barbara sheriffs that you wrote a check to Janet or Jay on one occasion, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I did to Jay or Janet, I'm not sure which one, yeah.
And you told them the check was endorsed by Janet Arvizo?
I never said it was endorsed. I don't look at the back of the check, whose endorsement?
Would it refresh your recollection if I show you the police report?
The check? The police report? I don't care what. I don't look at the back of the check. I don't look at the back of the check. Maybe you misunderstood.
Let me just ask the question. You just have to answer it. It's being recorded.
Sorry.
Would it refresh your recollection?
Yes.
About your telling the Santa Barbara sheriffs?
Yeah.
That Janet Arvizo endorsed that check if I show you the police report?
I'll object to references and statements to Santa Barbara sheriffs as hearsay, unless they're prior consistent statements.
The objection is overruled. He's asking about refreshing his memory.
I don't recall that. I do not recall that.
Would it refresh your recollection if I show you what they say you said?
No, it doesn't make any difference. I know what I said. I don't recall it, so you can say anything you want.
Do you recall ever writing a check for Shayna Tronfeld?
Yes, I did.
And that check was to purchase a bed for the Arvizo children, correct?
Arvizo children. Describe what Arvizo children means.
What do you think it means?
I'm going to object as vague.
He's asking for more specific names, please.
Did you ever issue a check?
Yeah.
To Shayna Tronfeld?
Yeah. Who was my assistant?
For the purpose of purchasing a bed for any of the 3 Arvizo children?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
The time we went up there for Christmas. I went up there to see them, give them something for Christmas. I saw the kid, half of his face was swollen up. He had a lot of scar on his face, and they were sleeping on the floor. I felt bad. I went and told them immediately, buy them a bunk bed. At least get them something going. They were living on the floor. God.
Did you ever give any member of the prosecution team a copy of that check?
I don't. My office supposed to give it.
Did Prosecutor Zonin ever ask you if you could give him a copy of that check?
Mr. Zonin himself? Never.
Does Prosecutor Zonin ever ask you to give him copies of any other checks that you wrote to any member of the Arvizo family besides David?
Okay, no. The prosecution, Mr. Zonin himself, or all of the guys. You got to declare. Mr. Zonin you're talking about? Only Mr. Zonin? Or of his team?
Only Mr. Zonin.
Mr. Zonin? No, I don't think so. I don't recall he called me asking me that.
Do you recall any member of the prosecution team ever asking you for copies of checks you wrote to members of the Arvizo family other than David?
Yes. They're people, they ask me.
Who?
I don't remember his name.
Did you give copies of those checks to them?
I think I told my office to give them whatever they need.
Do you know if that ever happened?
I think it happened. I'm not sure. I think it did happen.
Did any of these prosecutors sitting at the table ever ask you for copies of those checks?
Those 3 people? No.
Okay. They only wanted checks involving David, correct?
Objection as to what they wanted is speculative.
I'll rephrase it, Your Honor.
All right.
In truth, Mr. Masada.
Yes.
The prosecution in this case only wanted copies of checks you wrote to David?
Objection as to what they wanted and speculative on his part.
Sustained.
You said you told someone at your office to give members of the prosecution checks you'd written to the Arvizos, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Who did you ask at your office to do that?
I told my assistant or my accountant to find the checks and, make a copy and give it to them.
Now, you wrote other checks to members of the Arvizo family that you can't locate, correct?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Do you remember telling the Santa Barbara sheriffs that there were other checks you wrote as gifts to the Arvizos that you can't find?
That was the 3 checks of the $50, I think it was, that I did put them. I don't know if they ever found them.
Didn't you say you could not retrieve copies of those checks?
Yeah, I did. I asked my accountant, and he said, I don't know. I don't know where they are. And he said, wherever they are, I can't find them. And I said, go find them.
Did you ever find them?
I think they did. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say something. I'm not sure.
In his direct examination, the prosecutor didn't refer to any of those checks, did he?
I'll object as irrelevant.
Sustained.
You indicated that you owned more than one Laugh Factory, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And where are the Laugh Factories you own located?
One is in Los Angeles. One is in New York City.
Any others?
One we building in Long Beach. One we did have in Hawaii.
Any others?
No, sir.
So how many do you own at the present?
2.
And you're building a couple of others?
No, I said.
What did you just say?
You got to listen.
Okay.
One we building in Long Beach. And one in Hawaii is closed.
Okay.
So we have right now, present time, 2.
Okay, alright.
Do you want the address for them?
I'll talk to you after court. We can give.
You are there. Me and you can have a comedy team.
Okay, alright, laughter. When did you last talk to Jay Jackson?
Jay Jackson. God, Jay Jackson. Maybe about 3 months, 4 months ago. How am I? Christmas was. I will say about 3, 4 months ago.
And where did you talk to him?
On the phone.
Okay, did he call you?
He might have. I'm not sure if I call him, You get on a day's routine, you don't remember, if he call me or I call him.
Did you discuss this case?
No, I did not.
Said nothing about it?
No, sir.
Never came up?
No.
Okay, was Janet involved in that discussion?
No.
Okay, and when did you last talk to Janet by phone?
I think you asked me that already.
When did you last talk to Janet by phone?
Objection. Asked and answered.
I don't know if I did ask that.
Yeah, you did, the look on your face. Laughter.
If I did, I apologize.
You did.
When did you last talk to her by phone?
Had there been a ruling by the court, Your Honor?
I don't remember. Laughter.
You too. We just go back and forth,
Go ahead and answer.
3, 4 months ago. I have no idea. 3, 4 months. Could be before Christmas, right before Christmas.
Let me ask you this. When did you last talk to Janet about this case?
Assumes facts not in evidence that he ever talked to Janet about this case.
I'll rephrase it.
And vague as to what this case is.
He did say that he talked to Janet about the case a long time ago. You can rephrase it.
So where are we?
When did you ever discuss this case with Janet?
It was a long, long time ago. About maybe, I don't know.
See, I told you.
I don't recall the date. I'm sorry.
I'm not asking you for the date. I'm asking you just to give your best estimate as to when you last talked to Janet about this case.
And I want to be as open as I can. I can't remember. I spoke to her one time. I don't remember when was it, what month was it, what year was it. I know I spoke to her.
Okay. Do you remember discussing with David Arvizo the fact that the Laugh Factory has a charity committee?
Yes, I did.
When did that discussion take place?
He came to my office and keep asking me for more money, and more money, and more money, and more money, and more money. And at one point, I said, well, if you need more money, what you have to do, because I have something, it's called Laugh Factory Academy of Comedy and Arts. That's a I put money myself into that account, and I help a comedian, for example, if their father died, if comedian's sick, they don't have any money for their doctor bills or something, I write a check for them. And I say, if you want more money, because I wanted to try to tell him, I didn't know how to say no to him. So that's why I say this. I say, if you want to come to the committee, talk to the committee, and we take it from there.
Can I have some? Laughter.
If you are, with your job, with your earnings, if you get broke. I don't know how much you making. Laughter.
Okay. You've testified about a truck that you learned that Michael Jackson had given to the Arvizo family, correct?
I never said truck. Never used the word truck.
How did you describe the vehicle?
It was what? A sedan. What do you call that car? I'm not too much fascinated by cars or monetary stuff. I don't know any of those stuff. I know a car was. The car is SUV, SIV, whatever it is. And it was a white car, you know. It's a big huge car. So it's a white car it was.
And when did you learn about that?
David came in my office. He was very excited. He said Michael gave him a car. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. And he said, come on, I show you. And I said, I'm in the middle, I'm helping other kids, this. And he said, come on. He waited there. And I went outside, and we saw him. He parked the car right in front of the fire hydrant, and I remember that, because you can't do that. That's against the law. You're going to get a ticket already. And he showed me, open the door, and I remember the car was white. And there was a TV on the dashboard. I remember that.
Did you get in the car?
No, I looked in the car. The door, they opened the door, but I didn't get into the car and drive it around, no.
How many times did you see that car at the Laugh Factory?
You know, he would come to my office. A couple of times I saw him drive in that car, drive away, because he needed money for gas for this car, because he was telling me that particular car, Michael gave it to him, it lose a lot of gas, and he need more money for gas. So that's how he was getting more money from me.
Do you remember telling a Santa Barbara sheriff's officer?
Yeah.
That you wrote Janet a check for Christmas?
Write Janet a check for Christmas. No, I don't recall that.
Would it refresh your recollection if I show you a transcript of your interview?
I mean, I'm just saying I don't recall it.
Would it possibly help you recall it if I showed you a transcript of your interview?
I'm telling you, I don't recall. If I don't recall and you show me anything, I don't recall saying that.
You don't want to give it a try?
First of all, I have dyslexia. I can't see very good, so you're going to read it to me. If you want, bring it over.
Did you ever tell a Santa Barbara sheriff's officer during a recorded interview, I did write a check personally, $800, $1,000. Whatever, you know, not this Christmas before that to Janet. Do you remember saying anything like that?
Maybe I meant David. I wrote the check for David, $800. Maybe somehow I mix up the name. That could be.
You may have written a check to David for $1,000?
For $800 to $1,000, yes.
Do you recall saying you gave Janet a check at any time?
I might have made a mistake, their name together.
Okay.
Let's take a break.